Okay, we're live. We can't talk about people now. Good evening, Kiki Convos crew, Facebook, and all of the good people. Welcome. Welcome to Thursday night. We're an hour early this time because my crew, my panel is so lit that we had to come on a little bit early today. I'm gonna let the people come into the room. Take a moment and share it on your pages. Can't forget to do that. I think you can share from my page. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you guys share from your page. I'm gonna share it to my my fan page. Good evening, good people. Good evening. Get to a page.
Let me see.
Yes. So good to see. Now y'all all quiet now. Y'all were just up here, Kiki. Now everybody's quiet. All right. All right.
We're ready. We're just waiting for questions.
We're ready.
And remember, y'all gonna supposed to ask each other questions too. So it's not gonna just be me.
Oh, great.
Interviewing. I know. Well, y'all know each other so well. Hey, Fred Matthews. Hey,
apparently not well enough.
Right?
Still learning things.
Yeah, like who's a parent? Yeah.
Hey, Shaquille. How are you?
Oh, the worst.
Welcome. Welcome to Thursday Night Combos. I am so excited about this panel and all these amazing leaders that I don't know very well at all. I mean, I know Alexa's name has been thrown around a lot lately as like one of the young ladies to watch. And Teyvon got a new position, right, sir?
Yep.
Yes. And yes, Emily Albrecht, how are you? Two Louisville people we love.
Hey, Emily. Yes.
Emily is my homegirl singing full, honey. Yes. So I have to say good evening to you all. I have to acknowledge the beat. Now, I normally beat the pace for combos. Everyone knows that. But this beat today is special because I was recording for Opera Philadelphia. And so I'm not being extra because of the panel. It's just, had to switch my wig up and do the whole thing. So anyway, that's my
we love it.
Oh, my disclaimer. Thank you. But I wanted to start off by saying thank you all for agreeing to come on the show. And I want to thank Alexa for getting this amazing panel together. I answered a call that she made. A call out that she made and we can talk about that too because I think
we should
to talk about that. And so whomever would like to start to tell us like who you are, where you're from, and how you came, to this art form.
Well, I'll go since I started it. So I'm Alexa Smith. I am the Assistant Vice President and Chief of Staff of Manhattan School of Music, where I'm also an alumna in the voice department. I did my master's there over a decade ago. Yvette's also an alumna. And I am also part of the Sphinx organization's LEAD program. It's called Sphinx LEAD. It's a 2-year program that helps support rising arts administrators of color. It's been a transformative experience for me and 3 of the other guests here, Kristal Pacific, Teyvon Fowler-Chapman, and Yvette Loynaz are my colleagues in Sphinx LEAD. But it's been like a game changer for many of us. Neal is my other Louisville partner in crime from Louisville, Kentucky, and I'll let him say about himself next. But within our Sphinx group, we talk a lot about the role of the Black and Brown arts administrator and how that functions not only within like an organization, but what it means, because it means something different. It means something different for us, especially those of us who have been artists ourselves and understand the racism that is rampant in the industry. And I don't want to ever say like in the art form, because I believe it takes the people that run it to have racist values to continue all the things that make it difficult for us. And it takes forward motion, looking to the future, what we want to change, but also undoing all the things that have been purposely put there by people with white supremacist ideology, either conscious or unconscious. So it's a conversation that we have constantly. We're in our WhatsApp all the time talking about everything. And you know, we had a summer, especially as the onlys in our administrations, managing what's happening in the world and trying to apply it to our world. And you know, for us, I'm just going to own what I posted, which was basically saying that for us, it's frustrating to see only artists being reached out to make comments. Because there would be days when many of us were up at 6 on calls and at bed, you know, or, you know, finishing up at midnight, just dealing with all the things that come up. And I wish people knew about it. So there's a frustration there for us that really isn't the artist's fault. It's that's where people go to when they want answers, and rightfully, and I'm glad that they do. For us, it felt frustrating, and you know, I'm pretty open about how I feel. And I heard from a lot of artists that, you know, it didn't feel fair, and I really sat with that for days. And I understand and I agree. And you know, we found a different way to harness that in an open letter that we wrote on Medium. My arts administrative friends in Sphinx. But you know, what I love about Karen is her open heart, and she reached out immediately and says like, hey, I want to know all of you, like, let's do it. So thank you forever for that, Karen. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you listening and understanding where we're coming from. So that's me anyway, and that's how this sort of started, but I'll pass it along to whoever wants to go next for intro.
Before we didn't do our cheers.
Our cheers.
Is that like a theme?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Ooh,
I got so excited to talk to y'all to do this. So, you know, but anyway, cheers. So who's next? Go on.
I'll quickly go next. I'm Brandon Neal. I'm currently the associate producer in the Office of the President at the Juilliard School. Formerly, I worked at the Santa Fe Opera, and I'm currently on the Alana Opera Network for Opera America. So continuing my opera work in the best way I can. And I was really happy and excited to get the early kind of like, oh, you're going to be asked to come on this panel with me, blah, blah, blah. Just wait for Karen Slack's email. And at first I was like, Karen Slack, what do you mean? You know me? What's happened? That's very strange. Okay, cool. So it's just great to be here and to talk about the things that I love and that I find really important. And it's my Blackness and my Blackness in not just administration, but also in creating things. And I think we all have a very interesting perspective because we can't hide our color, our ethnicity, our culture. It's a banner on us, and it's something that we have to constantly be engaged with when we are doing anything, let alone work. Going to the grocery store is an experience, you know, getting on the subway is an experience. So when we're in this like very high emotional art form, and not just opera, all these art forms that we intermingle in, having that discussion and really digging through, especially at this point in time where we're really having this kind of uprising of racial tension that is so surprising to so many, but we all know that it's been a part of our lives since we left the womb. So I'm excited to talk more about these kind of things and hearing from you guys and everything. So excited to be here.
Thank you.
I'll go. Yeah. My name is Kristal Pacific. I am the Director of Social Equity in Grantmaking at Opera America. And I have to say, when I was thinking about how I got here, a I studied opera in university and undergrad, and my teachers, the institution, were not supportive of me finding a career, and I honestly just couldn't find a pathway in how to be a performer in this art form. And for me, then, that kind of how I led to arts administration. I studied that for my master's. I did fundraising, both in Philly. I worked in a couple companies there before coming back to New York. And then, the gatekeepers kept me out, and I found a way through the back door of finding a position at Opera America, making a career pivot to philanthropy, and at the most opportune moment of, as Brandon was talking about, this racial crisis and all the things that are happening and the change that we are pushing forward, to really be here. Like, now I'm, in this art form in a different capacity, and one that's quite impactful. And so I'm really thankful for that. But again, as Alexa said, I am an artist myself. I do, other types of vocal performance, and, never had the opportunity to be on an opera stage, but have spent many times on many other types of stages. And that is what feeds my work, and why I'm here.
Great.
Yes.
I'll go next. I am Teyvon Fowler-Chapman. I'm the new executive director for Washington Concert Opera. And it's so interesting to because this job, this is definitely an opera job, of course. The last one where I was at National Sawdust for like 3 months before the coronavirus pretty much destroyed the main reason I was in New York. Even then, I was kind of like, oh, it's like Teyvon, he did the opera thing before, because I was at Wolf Trap before. And it's so ironic because before I had worked at Wolf Trap starting in 2018, I was actually in dance, or I was a company manager for a dance company, and I was a percussionist. And so I think within this group, I'm probably, I work with like my hands and rhythm, and I have like no sense of like tone in my voice at all. But with that, it comes with a lot of context, not just within opera, but within the performing arts. And I've had the benefit of kind of seeing a lot of similarities between all of these art forms in terms of like what is really great about them, just from an industry standpoint, but also from a racial standpoint, but also like what things are not working out so well within classical music, with orchestras, with modern and classical dance, and also with opera, and seeing what challenges we're facing. And with COVID, it's brought forth two different things. It's brought forth the fact that we've neglected a lot of issues surrounding race, or that we've really kind of created these band-aids to problems that have just covered up the deeper problems. And the same thing can be said for the issues that we face organizationally and as an industry, or for institutions to survive. And I, especially in being in this role at Washington Concert Opera, but in being in all of the roles and seeing what challenges we're facing as organizations, it's really it's been really enlightening to see, and also very encouraging to see how much has pivoted, how much people are willing to change in order to survive. And so this is, it's truly the hardest time for us. But it's also the time of the greatest opportunity, both for seeing change in diversity, equity, and inclusion, but also for making organizations just generally stronger than what they were before, and really being equitable for everyone.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Well, I think I'm the last one here. I'm Yvette Loynaz. I am right now serving as the Director of Individual Giving at New World Symphony in Miami Beach. How I got here into this position is a very roundabout story, but I think that's very typical for all of us in arts administration. I think I'm hard pressed to find an arts administrator that hasn't at one point been an artist, in some way, shape, or form, and that's very much my story. As Alexis said, I graduated from Manhattan School of Music. I'm from Miami, so my parents are Cuban. I grew up in this very Latin culture and very particular Miami culture, but ended up in New York and ended up starting my career at Manhattan School of Music, where I became the administrative director for the pre-college, where I also got a chance to join the voice faculty and really had the amazing privilege that I had a great boss who allowed me to be an artist at the same time. So I had the opportunity to work at Glimmerglass. I had the opportunity to work at Caramore, which is now Teatro Nuevo, and Aspen, along the way. So I somehow made my way to Europe and found a way to live as an artist there for about 5 years before making the decision to come back to Miami and start a family and now work in fundraising. So how I landed in fundraising as an artist, for me, it's really interesting because it's not something I chose particularly, but it's absolutely something I love because I'm realizing more and more how much it is about making connections. And the reason I ever became an artist is about the connections that I make, both with the music, with my colleagues, and with the audience. And now I get a chance to do that on the other side. And I'm doing it for an art form that I truly love. So it was really a roundabout path. I'm still an artist. I still sing and I still practice my craft. And now I have the privilege to serve the art form in this new role. So it's been a really amazing time too, because as Alexa and my colleagues at Sphinx has been really a gift in a lot of ways as a person of color, as someone who I'm white presenting. That's something I absolutely understand and deal with, and the privilege that I have to even be in the role that I have is something I wrestle with all the time. And I think even as an artist too, because I acknowledge that the organization that I work with and have worked with are primarily white. So it's like this real paradox of like wanting to keep rising, but understanding that the thing that's helping me rise is something that's systemically racist and really built on this structure that I'm trying to dismantle from within, that we all are, in our piece of the pie. So I'm really grateful to be here. And Karen, again, just like only gratitude and love for your artistry and for your administration now. Like you are the tie that binds us now. You're bringing both of us together. So I'm excited to be here to hear what you guys have been up to and share ideas.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you're very welcome, and thank you for coming. And I always feel like I'm sort of, as I call myself lovingly, Switzerland. I am the core of very many relationships. I am the tie that binds. So I sit very comfortably in that position. I'm cool with that. Russell Thomas says woohoo when you said Miami.
Oh, Russell.
And we love Russell. But I want to go back to that before it gets too far on the gatekeeper situation, because I feel like at the core of all of these conversations, that is the core of every conversation, because they are the recruiters, gatekeepers, right? The recruiters that get to pick who gets to be the general director, who gets to head artistic, who gets to run schools, who actually gets to the finals of these, of the people don't understand the level. There's levels to this thing, as they say, and talk about that and talk about. Well, first of all, before it gets too far, I want to say that I have been told by several general directors or leaders, if you can find us some fundraisers, there's jobs. So
all the time.
Right, exactly. They're like, oh, find me some fundraisers. But this idea of gatekeepers, and I think that some people don't really know that they hold those places. They think, oh, well, I'm doing the work. I am, I'm trying to be the thing, but then they keep people out. So I want to talk a little bit about that and what that means to you guys.
Oh Lord.
I know. Right in. Down on you. Oops.
Well, for me, I am very grateful for the work I get to do at MSM because I'm listened to. I get to make policies a lot. I get to sit. Today I had a board meeting, and the board and the vice presidents are the only people that are a part of that. And I'm the only person of color there, period, only. We have one Asian trustee, although he was not there today. So I take that really seriously. And it's the board's meeting, of course, but I take the things I prepare to present them on behalf of the school very seriously, because I know that not everyone gets to do that. But, I work directly for the president who also hired me, and he's a white, cisgendered gay man. And I couldn't do the work I do without him, like hands down. He allows me to do what I'm best at, and I cannot do it without him. I cannot. And I think that's important. But I will say, recently, a couple of weird things have happened where people have tried to come to him and say do you know this woman's out here saying blah blah blah, kind of pull some Amy Cooper, and I'm like, what if he wasn't who he is? What if he didn't care about me and my career beyond MSM? Because let me tell you, the first week I was there, he was like, so what do you want to do after this? You want to run a company? What do you want to do? Because we want to help you get to that, in a couple, but you have to stay a little bit, but we're going to help you get there. If he wasn't that person, what would that have done to me? I might not have had a job. And as one of the only Black women in this world of arts administration, people are okay sending a one-off email because they're pissed off about an article I posted or whatever. And they have no idea the damage that could do. And so that's how fragile it is. It really is fragile. And, I'm lucky that someone gave me the chance and they trust me with the knowledge that I have. But as everyone here, I'm sure can tell you, the number of times we've gotten turned down or told that we're not qualified for things, I mean, right?
If you got experienced enough, or you don't have the experience or the right title or the right path.
It's an interesting thing because this job that I hold now is the very first one in my entire professional career that I'm not the first person in that job. And that actually tells me a lot of things because when when you apply for things that people have already been, jobs that people have already held, jobs that have been established, it has created, it's created this sort of kind of idea of what they want. And when we talk about gatekeeping, whether it's on the stage or it's behind the scenes, a lot of it is based off of perception. And that perception is, most of the time it's based off of your past experiences. And that, it creates part of that difficulty, especially for people of color in getting in, especially when we have never been seen in these roles to begin with. And so, I am thankful right now because, with this job, it was kind of like the opposite, or it was gatekeeping, but it was it worked out for me because it was people who I knew within the DC opera community. It was my colleagues and mentors at Wolf Trap, people from Vocal Arts CC, which is another organization I worked with, people who vouched for me, and also people within the organization, people that I was interviewing for who said, at many other times in which I've been told that I'm not enough of X, Y, or Z, it's the first time in which they said, well, that's not the thing that, I don't actually think that is the indicator of how good of a job that he's going to do. And, that pretty much sums up how well it's been going for me so far, and that it's been a lot more open and collaborative. And I haven't been judged off of my ability based on age or race, both of which are huge things in this industry. So the way that I see it, there are a lot of perceptions on what people are supposed to look like, or how they're supposed to sound, or how things are supposed to happen, and it's based off of the tradition of this art form. And when we talk about being too traditional or too elitist or too stuck in the times, like it's that kind of thinking that we need to shed to propel us forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's really key. Just the idea of what the art form is. It's thought of, the perception of it is that it's a Eurocentric art form for European people, and shedding that is like the first order of business. And there are so many people, creators, composers and writers working in this art form. Of course, all the singers on the stage, and us behind the scenes breaking it down one by one, because that's what it takes. We really just have to completely bust open the definition and redefine what it is. And in addition to that, I think what we need are more white, anti-racist people who serve as mentors and colleagues and allies at the circumstances that both Alexa and Teyvon shared. That was what was required. It required someone to quote unquote vouch for you. And so when people are asking me, what can I do? I'm like, be a mentor to a person of color, be a colleague, an ally, look out for them, promote them. That is what you can do, because this is the work that it takes to change what it looks like.
Absolutely. I mean, quickly, I remember, and apologize, my cat hasn't seen me.
I love it. What's the cat's name?
I know. And Convos is early today. I know. She normally sits over there.
Make a cameo, honey.
Yeah, I know. She's been wanting to be on so bad on the show. But so this is Penny, so I apologize.
Hi, Penny.
But yeah, I remember a colleague of mine, this was pre-COVID, saying, how can I, a singer, how can I, help? I feel helpless and I want to, help out because, I thought I had she had gotten a few jobs over me or whatever. And I was like, well, when you can't do the job, then you need to speak up and say, I can't do this job, but this soprano can do it. This, and she be someone that does not look like you.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
But that deserves the opportunity. And so every time there's something that comes up and you can't do it, then you always advocate for someone else. And that's the smallest, most minute thing that you can do. And that's how you use your platform and your position.
Yeah, it's speaking up. It's also stepping aside. It's collaboration. I think about all the companies that have now added on, like artistic advisors or co-artistic director or sharing, giving up. It's, part of it is giving up a bit of the table because the table is big enough, point blank, period. And it's just moving one little smidge to add another person to make it better. So
plenty good room.
Yep. Plenty good room.
I think I do want to hit on this gatekeeping because for me, what I truly believe, all of this stems around the culture of the organization, and we can talk about creating committees and we can talk about adding, DEI consultants or even positions, but if ultimately the organization at every level and primarily leadership doesn't take on this culture of commitment to anti-racism, to do the education, get everybody on the same page as far as vocabulary, what it means, what we want to do, that's how you move forward quickly. But we can't move forward quickly because everyone's not on the same page. And this really, I see it in various organizations. I don't want to speak about my personal experience, but where I see it, it really has a lot to do with the board. It has to do with the cabinet of leadership. And even when you do include people of color and include artist advisors, which is what I absolutely think is necessary at every artistic organization, there needs to be an artist at the table at a high leadership level. But it sometimes, if it's not really done with true intention of incorporating as thought partners and really from the seed of the idea to completion of the project, then to me it will always look and feel like tokenism.
Yeah.
So it really has to start there, like at the heart of the culture of the organization, from the staff at every level. And I think that's what a lot of organizations are trying to either skim over or try to like solve with a group of 10 people, or in my case, we have a committee and it's about 40 strong of board members, staff, and musicians, which is excellent. And I'm really proud of my organization for moving in that direction. And I'm excited about what we're going to do. But it's going to be so slow unless we really, like, every single day, in my job as a fundraiser, in your job as an artistic, director, and in your job as the accountant or finance, whatever, you are thinking about diversity and how to center it in your work. It really is. It has to be that specific and that daily, and you have to measure it around goals. And everybody has to do it.
That's it. And we talk about it so much, like at in our Sphinx group, and like Brandon and I were kikiing all summer about that, right?
Well, I just wanted to add, just in that concept of tokenism, we have to get away from this idea that it is brave to bring on people of color onto your team.
Absolutely.
That it is revolutionary to diversify your ranks. I think that it's just such a condescending conversation that I've heard I've heard from general directors that they're scared to.
It's a risk
to diversify their stages.
But it should have been the bare minimum like 20 years ago.
Exactly. And, since I've been a child, I've been fascinated with the idea that because of my skin color, that I have these barriers in front of me, even though I have 2 arms, 2 legs, a mouth, 2 eyes, nose,
and 3 degrees.
Hair that grows on my head. I wear clothes. I had a dog too. Like we have all these likenesses with each other, but yet because of my color, I'm seen as an anomaly. I'm seen as someone who has a great speaking vocabulary and great, and that sets me above people that look like me. We need to also address this racist system that's inherent in opera, in our conservatories, in all of our art forms, that also pits us against one another based on colorism and education level
and class
and money and all these other things. We have to address that as well, because it's not just there are so many like-minded people. I feel like when a general director comes to me and says, I believe that they want to do, but they don't know how, because they have lived an entire life steeped in a racist history that goes back way before they were born, way before their grandparents were born. Mm-hmm. This is inundated in who we are as a country, as a nation, and particularly in this art form, in opera. So we have to start demystifying blackness, brownness, all those kind of things, if we're really going to start moving that ball forward. That's a tough discussion.
Brandon, how do we do that? How do we tell them when they come to us and say, we really want to do the work?
But
we are the EDI person.
Right. That's the thing. That's what messes it up for me. Because the Mets nonsense this summer, when they announced we're going to hire a chief diversity officer. I was like, okay, so you're going to hire someone, you're probably going to pay them $300,000 because they're going to be officer level, whatever. And you're going to hire somebody already marginalized to come in and swim upstream in your organization, and basically every single day is going to be nothing but challenges, trying to get people to understand the basics of not being racist. Like that is so little work that you're taking on. And all it does is bring in someone to earn some money and feel like, oh, I finally have some power. But they don't have power because they have nothing to work with. Like at MSM, for example, we don't have a dedicated chief diversity officer. It's part of my job because, Jim, the president, was like, committee is great. And I know plenty of people on staff who would join a committee, but we're not ready because that committee is going to have no power. They're not going to be able to come to the board and say, we need to do this, because that's just not how the hierarchy is set up. We need to start up here. So we started 2 years ago trying to figure out, audit what's happening. and say like, okay, where are we now? How do we get there? And I don't know if you know Chip McNeil at San Francisco Opera. Oh my gosh. He has the best way of thinking about it. So Chip's like, the board wants to know like, okay, so what's the DEI plan? Like, the bullet points and all that. And Chip's like, oh, that conversation we had? Like, that's actually the work. So we got to keep doing that. So we're going to be doing that every week.
Every week.
I don't know that people understand that, like, that's the work. Like, you're going to read How to Be an Anti-Racist. Guess what? You're going to put that down, and you're going to pick up some bell hooks. You're going to put that down. You're going to pick up some James Baldwin, and you're not going to stop.
Not exactly. It's like, I'm going to let Brandon, I'm going to let Brandon answer his demystifying. I want you to.
Well, I think one of the things that we have to do is is exactly what Alexa was just saying. We have to start seeing each other as human beings. That's the first thing we have to do. B, I think it's so important when we have positions that are like equity, diversity, inclusion directors, managers, whatever, that we put them in a position of power to where they are in the conversations with hirings, that they're in the conversations with what we're doing artistically.
Yes.
Who's being scheduled, who's being planned. And I don't just mean singers. I mean directors, stage managers. I mean, that entire level and the entire structure needs to be revamped. And if we say like, well, we can't find anybody. Well, you have a young artist program. You have this kind of program. Yes. So put your money where your mouth is. And the thing is that we have to hold these companies accountable. It starts at the top. Let me tell you, I saw Porky and Bess on PBS the other day. You can't tell me you can't find a black singer to sing 5 billion roles right in the opera company in this country, because I watched that on PBS months later and it blew me out my house. So I don't know what you're talking about. So these kind of conversations that we don't exist. Yeah, we do exist. We exist in other art forms because you chased us out of this one.
Yes.
So how do we create opportunities to bring people in so we can flood our ranks with people that look like us, that have diverse backgrounds? That's how we start demystifying it. When they start seeing that we can do things. We're not just a token bunch of 6 people on this conversation. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of us all over the place doing their job, doing their thing, killing it left and right. And they're not given the opportunity in this opera realm because of this racist ideal that we don't connect with it, that we are separate from it. How can you say that? We just celebrated Jesse Norman's birthday yesterday, 75 years. Karen, I saw you singing. You killed it, girl.
She always
always playing.
Period.
And I'm sorry, Miss Brandy, who was singing, are you kidding?
Sutton. Oh my God.
I mean, I just melted into the floor. How can you deny? We have Jesse Norman. We have Leontine Price. We have Karen Slack. It's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous conversation. And that's where we need to start. People like us, people who are able to get to the table, we have to continue to pay it forward. And, it's hard because we have to do the hard work. We have to do the struggle. We have to deal with the pain of being the ones who are sometimes shunned or, personified as like that angry person over there, like those kind of things. But, I'm willing to take the brunt. I'm willing to take the bullets. If it gets 5 people in the door, 2 years, 10 years from now, I did my job.
Yes.
And that's hard. We have to do that groundwork as well.
And I just want to add, because this is why this conversation, like pulling artists and administrators together, organizations like Sphinx that are trying to create access and networks for us, because what I've learned, if I've learned anything in the last few years, is how these higher level positions that do have the power, and that's where you kind of become the decision makers, it is about who you know. It is about who opens the door for you. Yeah. And that's why we have to, when we get there, like Brandon's saying, open the door for each other and let people know, because this is why it's such a boys club, it's particularly in the artistic direction world. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's my experience, my story is that I would love to be heading an artistic vision for an opera company, but that is not possible or hasn't been possible because of the doors that are closed. And so I started my own opera company when I went to Belgium, and it was great. And I did really wonderful work there, and I killed it. But then I come over here and I try to get work, and people just see the gap in my resume. They're like, what, did you have a kid? Like, they start making these ridiculous assumptions about my experience, and I can only ever start from the bottom and have to work my way up and disregard all the work that I did, all the have no imagination, it felt like, to interpret, wow, she was an artist. Wow, she managed her own career. She created her own company. She ran a pre-college department. Like, I really literally have to walk into every room and sell myself and prove myself. And a part of that I take responsibility for, because I do see how my white counterparts, male in particular, can just walk into a room with like all the confidence in the world and maybe half the experience that I have and get a better salary, a higher position, and just with this, like, I don't know, born with this like privilege or just belief that they can have what they want. Mm-hmm. And so I struggle with that, whether it's me that's like limiting myself, or is it just because it's so damn hard to open those doors? And so now I have to choose another path and keep making my way, the way that I can,
Can I add one little thing real quick?
Sure, go for it.
Just real quick. Any artists, administrators of color, and any allies, I like to say, what's the term we use, Kristal? Not allies, but accomplices. There we go.
Accomplices.
Any accomplices, co-conspirators. One thing that you can realize is that any little thing that you can do is important.
Yeah.
For example, in my role in Juilliard, I'm looking around, taking my time, seeing like, okay, we're not having editors of color. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, we're not having sound engineers of color. Okay. Directors of color. Okay. This of color. Okay. I'm already planning far ahead of what I will be addressing in the coming weeks. Mm-hmm. So I make sure that people look like me are represented in what we do artistically. Mm-hmm. So it's just those little things and keeping people's feet to the fire. You don't have to, move the moon to the other side of the earth. Just kick the little rock. If you can kick one rock, just do it. I think we get in our heads about that we have to move mountains to accomplish anything. And I think that's what's been a big disconnect between artists and administrators as well, because we're both trying to move mountains, right? And they're both trying to make this big shift. But we can also do smaller things that help and engage each other. And at the end of the day, we're all wanting the exact same thing. So I just wanted to add that little bit.
Yeah,
I'm glad you did. And Yvette, just going back to Yvette's point about with whom gets into these artistic administrator positions and the artistic director positions, particularly in opera companies, it's whomever your mentor is.
That's right.
Right.
Who you assisted. Oftentimes you get the bump up.
Yeah. I literally heard a general director say, and I've been watching in these podcasts, I heard him say that he told his board, don't hire anyone that applies. And I mean, it was a very it seemed like a benign comment, but to me it's like, oh, so only hire people that you have access to, or that you really just pull people in from the door. And that's the problem, because they're not going to see me. They're not going to see me in the middle here, fighting to be seen. So it's that kind of behind the scenes manipulation of the hiring process, and really people, getting inside the board, having access to people with that kind of wealth who then know that person and then say, hey, I really want you to hire this person. How can you compete with that? Mm-hmm. So even if I'm interested in a position and I put myself up for it and I have the experience, because this person doesn't know who I am and I didn't have the opportunity to engage in his network, he would never recommend me for that job. Right. So, and I don't think that's unique to this particular general director. So,
right, which is why, I'm in this work to change hearts and minds, but also to change policy. It should be written somewhere that cannot happen, and it has to be in this way, and that for any job, you have to have just as many, if not twice as many candidates of color that you have white candidates. I mean, this is the work that we need to start doing, and this is the task of the boards at this moment, is to change the policy and make it anti-racist.
Yes.
Or the search committees that are put in place, like
exactly,
the bylaws around that.
Which is very problematic because they're
Yeah.
very white and they're very old establishments.
Yep.
Right.
And they are the ones who tell people, well, you can't come from this department and run a company. You can't come from the bottom, from not only the bottom, but the worker bee part of a company to be in the head of the company if you look a certain way. But
That's
if
right.
you don't, then of course it's always the, well, you look like a leader, so you can be a leader coming from education, coming from development to run a company. But if you don't look like, that's not possible for you. And we have to get into that system and get them to see the wrongs that they've done by people.
And can we also address how wardrobe is inherently racist in opera as well? I mean, how the standards of which we hold people to look is also an inherently racist and biased way of interacting with each other as well. So
yes, absolutely. I mean, why do I have to come with my my Yankee straight? Why can't I just come one day with,
hey, all natural,
or my I think singers, we have it's a little bit of room for us in that way. They're like, oh, that person's a singer or they're an artist in that way. But if you go straight to administration, having not come from that performance background, there is that level of expectation of you don't bring that here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too with the idea of the network that it takes to get somewhere, I think that's one thing I really appreciate Sphinx for, is because it's like two things at once. Like on the one where, they're trying to dismantle some of these things, but on the other side, they're like, okay, if the network is the thing and you need that, we're going to give it to you, because we go like 4 times a year to different companies and we like spend intimate time with their administrators. And, the exchange of information, like they get to know us, and because we're affiliated with Sphinx, we're suddenly valid.
All right.
And, they
everything. It changed everything.
It changed everything. I mean, like, like mentors, Yvette, right? Like, and Teyvon and Kristal, like they assign us mentors that are in the industry, and they're like no joke. Like Hasmin is like working with Deborah Borda at the New York Phil. Wow. Like I'm working with Deborah Rutter at the Kennedy Center. Like that, I would never get that access.
Right. Y'all gotta hook me up with Sphinx. Tell them. Yeah. I'm as I'm going into that other world,
absolutely.
I definitely feel like, oh my God, I need that. I need one of you guys to mentor me in a way, and I need that because I am coming from the performance. But again, it's that level of the top tier you're getting access to, and you would not had it not been for a organization like Sphinx, because there's nothing out there like that for you to succeed. Because the idea is that you're not supposed to want to be or to have success in those wrongs, right?
Yeah.
Or even like calling yourself a leader. I think that was a big shift for me. Once I was placed into that group, my organization saw that I had that ambition, that I had that view for myself. And another thing that I can talk about Sphinx all day, but I think it's such a beautiful organization. One of the things that I highly recommend to anyone in the arts to go to the conference that they have every year, that like blew my mind. And one of the most beautiful things is watching the orchestra play, and it is a full Black Latinx orchestra, and they play like I really had like shivers. I wanted to cry. It was such a beautiful thing. And I think that was the message I took away, is like, this is possible. Like, this is totally possible. And I came back to my organization so fired up. I mean, of course, then came COVID, because we went in, I think, early February. But it's such a like haven for this work. And if you need to recharge and refuel and get inspiration, this is why this kind of conversation is so important, because I am exhausted with having these kinds of challenges and hitting walls, with even the best of intentions at an organization, because there's so many moving parts. And it's such a blessing to have the opportunity to engage with like-minded artists, administrators, educators. Like it's a full gamut of people. And
it's
so
like you're not crazy, right? Like before I think we all had this feeling like, am I crazy or is this real racist? And then
I still do that every now and then, but it hasn't like all gone away.
Right. Well, it's still real racist.
Right. No, I totally you need those places to recharge. You need those things. And does Jesse runs the orchestra or Jesse Montgomery or something like that?
She's very involved. Yeah, she's very involved, and they play her music, and
well, she's another one that's just amazing. But I'm going to answer David Simon's question. She is not stopped singing. She will continue to sing. She will continue to try to affect change in this industry from both sides. Okay, so that's my position.
That is right.
I'm going to help the people on the other side, so we can all get together and do the thing. So David, she's not going to stop singing, okay?
Oh my God.
Scaring them out here.
Listen, I want to see it at the table so I can do the work, all the work, and bring people together.
But that's another thing. It's possible to do both. Like, what is it with the labels? Like, why do we have to be one thing? And why can't you have a successful opera career and sit at the table and have artistic vision for an organization? To me, I don't understand why that's so complicated for people to see happening simultaneously.
Well, especially as a woman, I mean, there's no women doing that. There's no women doing that. Like the men are doing it. I always tease Morris Robinson and Larry Brownlee all the time. I'm like, you guys are having these amazing careers and also doing, having a seat at the table. And I'm like, a lady needs to be doing that too,
Not really.
Yeah, and Russell Thomas as well. He's always in the back, puppeteering, as I say.
I have to say, Russell, I love you. I mean, met him when I was like 19, back in the day, back in Miami, and so it's been such a pleasure to know him and see him have such a crazy, awesome career. So Russell, if you're there, I love you.
Oh, he's a regular, so he's here. Yeah. Teyvon, you're so quiet. Please speak.
I've just been listening. I was going to say, because I was going to say something about Sphinx Connect, not to go back to that and pretty much advertise for Sphinx. But that's basically what we're doing.
Sorry.
So the thing about it is, I've been to the Connect conference twice. The last 2 years, and both times I've noticed the same thing, and it was pretty infuriating the first time, but out of all of as Brandon had said, it's there are a ton of people of color who are here, who are in this industry, who exist. And if you wanted to, if you were actually looking for them, that is the easiest place that you could go to find people.
So go to Sphinx Connect, the conference.
And the thing that I missed both years is that it's the people, the people who are running a lot of these organizations, especially people who've been in this industry for such a long time and have the highest level of influence that I could think of in the industry, I never see them at those conferences. And that's the most, I don't see them. I don't see a ton of artistic leadership unless their focus is on Black music or music or creating more equity for Black or brown people. I don't just see a ton of artistic leaders for orchestras. I don't just see a ton of artistic leaders for opera companies. I don't see a lot of administrative leaders for companies or orchestras at this thing. And when we talk about change, that's a missing piece of the conversation that I feel we get it as Sphinx lead, but not everyone does. And that is an issue to me, is more people should be at that, not to advertise for Sphinx, but because it exists. And it's so easy to do. It's ridiculously easy to go to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brandon. I'm sorry.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Just a query for the group. What do you think we should do when these opera companies start putting out their seasons for next year, and there are no people of color
Cringe.
in their casting? And I say this only because pretty much all of them have put out BLM support this summer. So I'm just curious, how do you think we should address these things? Because I have some ideas, but I'm just curious.
I would love to hear your ideas.
Yes, I want to hear your ideas, and I wanted to include soloists for orchestras as well.
Yes,
we're gonna have to talk. We're gonna fight for everybody.
Everybody,
absolutely.
Ballet too.
Hello.
Dance.
If you need to call people out, we will do that as well, so that they get their act together. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, the excuse. Well, let's demystify. So the excuse will be, we planned 3 to 5 years in advance. There was nothing we could do. How do we address that?
It's like, honey, you canceled your whole year. What are you talking about? Like,
yeah, we've been black for a long time. 3 to 5 years. We've been black longer than that.
Right.
And brown, right.
And still counting.
Right.
Yeah.
And Asian, yeah. Go ahead. Keep going. But
like I will say, when I was at City Opera, like the amount of artists we hired in the same year was a lot. And often last minute, often a couple weeks before rehearsal started. Mm-hmm. Like, even though you do plan a lot, like there's plenty of opportunity to include people at the last minute, especially, I mean, like, I don't know why you wouldn't take advantage of that, when the seasons start again. But I'm with you. I think when they come out, I don't think we're going to see a big change.
Well, it always perplexes me because so many companies have double casts, and yet they still choose to cast the same looking people in both, like, two me's, and they're both, white. It's just, I don't understand that. That's a common repertoire
Right.
role that so many people, especially a lot of women of color, are very well known for portraying those roles. So it's just interesting to me. I think we need to start thinking about this and start conspiring together, because we're coming on the cusp. October is creeping up here. People are starting to be like, oh, okay, the black summer has quieted down now, and so let's slowly just kind of eke this out and see how people take it. Blah blah blah. Like, yeah, we're waiting for you. I just want that, and that's what I'm trying to say too. All these directors, artistic directors watching, just know we waiting. We know. And
they're calling the summer of 2020 Black Summer. I feel like if we do not. We take it on a year by year basis, and I think that with the talks that we've been having, not just behind programming, but behind our own institutional race issues, like, this is our opportunity to say, okay, we're not, anything that we have just recently canceled, we're not trying to put it again later in a different season. We're trying to give ourselves the opportunity to really make do on these things that we've told ourselves we're going to do. That includes if we want more people, if we want more Black and brown people, or any sort of minority person in our main cast for future seasons, including the very next one that we have live, we're going to be intentional about doing that. If we want to have new programs, that are outside of what we currently do, we also, we're going to be intentional about doing, making sure that we're being inclusive, not just of the singers who have been neglected, but also parts of the DC community that we have also neglected from our programming choices. Mm-hmm. And when I think about, things that have been planned 3 or 5 years in advance, but haven't actually been announced yet, this is going to be oversimplifying it, but also, like, it hasn't been announced yet. Shit changes. You can make some of that change now if you are actually serious about it. But saying we're going to kick the can down the road 3 to 5 years later because we've already set this in stone, it's like, well, you're also going to forget about it in 3 to 5 years, as evidenced by, the last century of, you being in existence. So yeah, I think, the 3 to 5 years thing kind of sucks because it just doesn't make sense to me at all.
And yeah, exactly. And it affects the biggest companies because the smaller companies they don't have the resources to cast so far out. But again, the 3 to 5 years are the bigger companies and the bigger orchestras, and the world is watching you. You need to step up and be the leaders in this change. Not just the little guy who is like whose leader is the person who really wants to affect change, and they are doing it and they have already been doing the work, but the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna call people out because I still,
looking for it.
Also, in the face of COVID, I'm really hoping that things have changed because this has proven that you can plan as far ahead as you want. Right. But we haven't done the work necessary to sustain our organizations in a way that cannot just be completely upended by a pandemic. And so, we've just thrown essentially a year of pre-planning out the window if we plan, if organizations plan that way, because this whole season is a wash. So that's one of those opportunities for change, which is really rethinking. It's like how now that the world it feels like it's getting worse and worse. Like, why don't we, can we make a plan to make our part of it better? What can we do to make our little slice of the world in the performing arts better?
But can I, to what you just said, I want to think about how can we think about when we do call out organizations that it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Because I think part of this is starting to get comfortable with having these uncomfortable conversations. When I call out my organization from within, it's done with love. It's done because I care. It's done because I'm here and I know we have this to do better. And I say that the same for all the big opera companies out there doing incredible work, hiring amazing singers. I mean, there is no instrument that I love more. And I love the work that these opera companies have been doing, but they can do better. And that's kind of where it's at. And I feel, in my own experience, what I felt from the white leadership of organizations is there is this fear that when you do, as the, angry Latina coming into the room and saying what you got to say the way that I say it, doesn't mean that I don't like the organization, doesn't mean that I don't believe in it. It's just like, this is what the kind of conversation we have to talk about. And culturally, that's just how I talk.
Exactly.
People are very nervous, so it's like, I think, Alexa, you were saying it, that is the work. Like, we need to get into rooms, we need to have the really ugly, uncomfortable conversations and just get comfortable with it, hug it out after, and move along, And I think that's where we need to get to these organizations. Because, if that does happen, Brandon, if we have it within us and within our network to say, hey, I saw your Black Lives Matter statement, I saw your commitment, and now I'm looking at your programming, like we've done with my own organization. Right. And my organization has stepped up, big time, in a way. I'm really excited. But now the next question is okay, are we going to maintain that? Are we going to now start looking, great, we've done great work at including Black composers, artists, and thinking in that direction. Now what about the Latinos? I'm in Miami. Miami's 70% Latino. Okay, Hispanic people, 70% of Miami identifies as Hispanic. That includes Black, white, Asian, we're mixed. So where's that? So again, to a recent article that I shared, Tessitura's president, Andrew Racinos, wrote it, and it's something I truly believe. Your audience needs to look like your community.
Yes.
You need to look locally, and what better time? Sourcing local artists, sourcing local, getting into your community, seeing what their strengths are, and building on that. That's what's going to make us relevant. That's what's going to keep us alive in this time. And it's also good business.
Yeah, let me jump in real quick, and because I love what you said, Yvette, because there was two things in that. One was what does equity for everyone look like? Mm-hmm. Because in this time, particularly in these last 5 months, right? 5 months now, 6 months, whatever that is, Black artists have had such this gigantic presence. Like after Mr. Floyd was murdered, it was like boom. So many of us just got out there, and started these shows and, started having these conversations, been invited to these panels and all of these things. They went all to their like Black friend, right? The next person that or the most famous Black artist, to in order to take the moment. And so many of us did a wonderful job. Like, and I say shout out to everybody who is creating content during this time, who has stepped up to speak truth and to and to make change. So shout out, and it does not go unnoticed. And I respect all you, and many of you are my friends, and I love you. And let's just keep doing the good work. But I wanted to say like the equity for everyone, and also every opera company and every orchestra is not a community where there's a large percentage of Black people. And this idea of like, we are demanding these things and we want the stage to look like this percentage of as many people, like Arizona Opera, Phoenix Symphony, all these other communities that have heavy Latino,
Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Right, Santa Fe, which I was surprised, and they have not hired me back professionally, but that's okay. We're gonna work on that.
Let that sit for a second.
Karen, hire your black yaps, man. People who came through your program.
Karen, let that shade just sit.
Okay.
Should we take a moment of silence?
Okay.
Let's take a sip. Take a
drink.
That was a moment.
Brandon, are you going from Martin to Malcolm again?
What was that?
You remember this summer you're like, I'm going from Martin to Malcolm.
I'm serious. I have no time.
Yes, hire the artists that you train in your companies.
I mean,
invest and use the investments. But anyway, okay, that's a whole other conversation. But again, the equity for everybody, because in these conversations, I often feel like, the other communities of color either don't take the moments to step up, feel like they can't take the moments, or, so I want us to speak about that.
Yeah.
No, go, Kristal. No, go.
My thing will be quick. And my thing is that I hear you completely, and I absolutely agree, because I am here ultimately for equity for everyone. But a lot of the response was due, as we said, to the murder of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all of those people were Black. And so what I'm interested in, I put the question right back on the table, is what does true allyship look like from other communities of color when the Black community is suffering and mourning in a very particular way? So, yeah, I just want to make that clear. Yeah.
Let y'all talk it out. I'm stepping back.
Well, I mean, Brandon and I are both from Louisville, and we were home all summer. So in the middle of being like the only Black people at our organizations, like whether you have good colleagues or not, being the only is like extremely stressful. And then we're in our hometowns where like Breonna Taylor was like murdered out of her bed.
Right.
And around us, it's like we're going to protests, during the day in between Zoom calls. And like, to like then get back on a Zoom after your home is just like in trauma, allowing yourself to let your colleagues in on what your life is really hard. And I think Brandon and I had lots of drinks this summer.
We did.
Being in Louisville, and like, because thankfully we have each other to share that with, and it strengthens us to then, go to that office Zoom the next day and let people know, like, I just want to remind you again that this is important. Like, there's literally riots up the block, like where I am right now. And I think that constant reinforcement of how real it is for some of us, I think at least for us, like, helps plant the seeds on better support in our institutions anyway. I hope.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say, like, I feel so fortunate that I transitioned from Santa Fe Opera to Juilliard when I did, because the summer would have been so much harder for me. I've never had Black colleagues at an organization before. At Santa Fe, I had 2 other Black colleagues. We were the 3 first full-time Black members of staff in the company's history. I was the first, from what I've been able to discover, first full-time company member. And so to go from there to Juilliard, which has I think there's a Black person in almost every department in Juilliard, and for us to come together and kind of commune about our pain was very therapeutic and beautiful thing to do. But to answer your question about equity, I think it's really important that we take this moment to, of course, like support our Black colleagues and our Black friends and Black artists. But I don't want us to get into the place of that's the only group that we support and move forward. I've heard a number of conversations of people saying like, it's our turn. Like, Latinx people can come next. Asian people can go next, blah, 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 blah. There's enough space and enough room for us all to move forward. Yep. I think the thing is what Kristal pointed out beautifully is how do we commune together when there's pain, strife, and how do we come together as a group to where people can acknowledge one group's pain and suffering, but still move forward together. I think that's something that we have a hard time doing in this country because we're put into all these silos and we're all separated. And as I said earlier, I think a part of the operatic art form is to divide us. Divide and conquer is what they've been doing since forever. And we keep allowing them to do it. What did Shuri say? Conquer, those kind of things. We keep allowing this to happen instead of really connecting on that shared pain. Like, yes, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor were Black, but that doesn't mean that the pain another group of people of color feel is any different because they're also going through a ton of things. The Latinx community has also been hit really hard by violence. And I think one of the things that I haven't really seen is how do we come together? And how do we bring those kind of voices together? Because a lot of other Latinx men and women since George Floyd have been killed by police too. So that's just like one example. But I think we have to commune together and figure out how to push the ball forward and not just make it a Latinx issue or a Black issue or an Asian issue, a Muslim issue, those kind of things.
This takes a lot of, sorry, go ahead.
But I just wanted to point out, because Brandon, you said it at the very beginning, it's like we need to just be human, It's like we need to just see each other, see where everyone's pain is at, meet each other where we're at, and like try to lift each other up, And that's kind of, that's fundraising for me. It's really like you could literally do it in every role in an organization, whether you're on the stage, whether you're in the box office, whether you're fundraising, because that's my work. It's like I'm trying to come to donors in a human way. I'm trying to serve them. I'm trying to see how they can, put their dollars where they care about, And I think that's what's missing. But it's so easy to, when we start getting into these groups, that it becomes a competition of pain, that's where the All Lives Matter comes in, or the Blue Lives Matter, and all that other stuff. So
that's not
so much anger.
I'm sorry. I'm just like, I can't.
But I really am trying because I want to move forward. So I'm always trying to look at this like, okay, I want to meet people where they're at as much as I can with my self-care or whatever, but leaving my anger aside, because man, that was exhausting. This summer was exhausting. Like to just have these conversations and feel my anger and also I don't want to like attack my allies, right? So how can we like start seeing like, yes, you're going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. You're not going to get it right, especially if you're white. So, and especially if you're male. So, and that's okay. But like, I guess it really requires them to get uncomfortable. It really requires them to like become vulnerable, really, to be able to engage in this, So sorry, Kristal, I went off.
No, I think
Sorry, go ahead, Kristal.
It ties perfectly to what I was going to say. It's like it takes this collaborative vision where opera does not exist in a silo. It is a reflection of the society for which we live. And so, but with that, we have a lot of the issues and the racism and the systemic nature of it and, you know, just history that we're dealing with. But we do have an opportunity within this art form as a cultural bearer and sharer to re-envision it to something we haven't seen before. That is the work that we're actually doing, is a complete re-envisioning and making our art form, moving it forward. So yeah, I completely agree with it.
And for me, it goes back to something Brandon had said before, which, you know, every time I think about like my experience, and I think others, you know, I think about exceptionalism and what that does for people, but also most importantly, what it does to other people. And because when you're being told like, oh, well, you know, you are like, this actually was something that was said to me, not related to music, but like someone had said to me after someone else was killed, was like, oh, well, you're like, you know, one of the top 5% black people that I know. It's like, well, that's not a compliment to me because that sounds racist. Like, it just sounds terrible. Like, it's not a compliment to me. And the way that I see it within opera and in classical music is that when we have, you know, when that kind of attitude is taken and when that is given to the people who have kind of gone through a lot of struggle to get to where they are, who are black or brown or Asian or anything, and we've kind of treated them as the exception to our race, that then has kind of, instead of saying, you know, instead of looking at it as a struggle and an injustice that should not have happened, it turns into a trial that everyone should have to face. And so when, you know, if we as black people cannot get to a certain point and say, we had to do all this to get here, we're going to make sure that everyone else goes through the same hurdles because that's the way that it's supposed to happen. It's actually not. We're in a really racist system. These are not trials and tribulations that we have to go through to get to where we are. These are roadblocks that we have to remove for everyone else who we see struggling. So
yeah, like, isn't it a miracle that any of us actually got to this night where we are in our organizations? It's a miracle if you think of all the things that could have messed us up. Like, it's really
or all the things that did.
Or all the things that did.
Right.
That's so right.
Yeah, I mean, well, please, I got scars. You just can't see them, and I wear them well. So
Hey.
There you go. You know, I wanted to ask the question about, and it came up a little bit ago about the issues between the art forms and how other art forms like dance and music theater and, you know, popular music or whatever. And I know there are other issues in that way, but the high art, and I shouldn't say that because then of course that makes me elitist to say, you know, we are the high art because we are the classical art. But again, you know what I meant. But like, how can what's going on with, like, you know, Theater So White and like all these things and people like Audrey McDonald stepping in front and saying, you know, things need to change, and, you know, how is it that the dance and the music theater world can help the opera and the orchestral world, and like, and what organizations are really doing the work? Like, let's talk about the ones who are really doing the work.
That is a great question.
Really good question.
Well, I just want to give a shout out to Juilliard just a little bit because, you know, before this racial upheaval this past summer, they had already hired a director of equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging to start addressing and laying the foundation. Shout out to my friend and colleague, Christina Salgado at Juilliard. She's amazing.
Christina, somebody tag Christina on here.
Yeah, you got to get Christina Salgado. She's amazing.
Okay.
And she helped lay this groundwork and foundation along with some of our other colleagues that really helped kind of prep a lot of us for what ended up happening. Now, were there a lot of things that Juilliard still had to address? Of course. Juilliard is over 100 years old. You're going to have things to address. And you're a primarily white institution. You're going to have things to address. but she's keeping that ball forward. She's keep moving it. So are a lot of our other colleagues. There's a full committee of colleagues that have come together from all different areas of the school. So there are things that are happening. In regards to opera companies, I'm very interested to hear from my other friends here, because I don't see other opera companies or many orchestras taking that stance and that leap in the way that dance and musical theater has. So I'm just curious to hear it.
I think Seattle's doing it. I mean, I love what they're doing, and I also think I think everyone's doing what they can, but certainly the fact that they've hired Neal as a Black scholar, like having someone like that can really identify what's happening, and they were certainly doing it before. I remember reading about their butterfly and how they were like dealing with the racism and giving that story. I really admire their work, but it's I think it's going to be different for every company, and I do think it's incredible that the bigger organizations, the more that they can lead, like to what Karen was saying earlier, because you have such a huge platform and a huge stage to shine a light on this. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
We'll deliberate.
Life goes on.
But so I think that's important. Dallas Opera, I think, is also doing really great stuff. And in New World, where I'm at, I really think we are hitting it. Like, we're trying. We, like any organization, we have work to do, but the heart and soul is there. So I'm really excited to see this moment. And I know we've all heard it. It's like we feel like the door is going to close. Like, we've been like squeezing the door open, and we're trying to keep it open. I truly believe the door will stay open, but it's going to take us in it to keep saying, hey, don't forget. And that's kind of the work of being a pioneer in this, and to your point, it's like, I don't want in 3 to 5 years for this to be forgotten. So how can I do it? And that we all get brave together and keep, reminding as much as we can, because it's not easy. It's not easy to step up and say, to an organization or to leadership that this isn't happening, or it's not happening enough, or not wanting to like take the wind out of something that's slowly like gaining speed. Yeah. So it really, that's also exhausting work, which is more reason why I think we need Black people, we need Latinos, we need Asians at the top. So then this doesn't become such a huge conversation, because I do think we all do it. We all have our biases. And if I'm in the room, of course I'm going to think about the Latinos. Of course I'm going to think about Black people. I am really I'm zoned in. I see it. I think about women too, because that's me. That's what I care about. So I just think that's part of it. And it goes back to what I said earlier. It's culture, it's education. It's like, once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? So, getting people to see it. And that's just the work. That's nonstop. It's not going to be a moment, and we got to keep that door open. So
yeah, I think the other piece of that, as you say, that we're all doing that work, and we all also have a job on a piece of paper that we have to do. It's in my week this week, we had board meetings, so I have to analyze all the finance and facility documents to make sure that the fiscal year budget has been updated based on I have a job base level that I have to do. And when we are ready to at some point lead these companies, there's a lot of technical things that are in line that we have to get in line in order to even get a foot in the door with some credibility, on top of all of these other things that we also really have to be good at these discussions. And unfortunately, maybe not every Black person is going to be able to be as good as we are practiced at doing this, but it's now something that they have to do. On top of being able to run an audit for your company, do your 990 audit every year. It's a lot of things, it's, and to me, that's what gets exhausting. It's people have been asking me since we got back to school, like faculty and board members, like, oh, you're getting an MBA. You don't need that. Like, you're getting so much good training here. I'm like, you think that I'm going to get in the finals of running Chicago Lyric Opera one day, and there's going to be some white man there with an MBA, and I don't have one, and they're going to pick me? They're not going to pick me. I have to get the MBA to make sure that when I'm ready to get in the door there, that there's nothing they can say for not hiring me. I don't have that. I don't feel that I have that option. I have to do my job really, really well and also be good at this other thing that's a piece of me. Like, I'm Black. I'm never not Black. I don't get to hang it up over here and not talk about it. So I think that's like, I think for us, it's like we're switching back and forth all the time, as you are as artists too, right? Because you're never not Black in a role.
Oh my God. No, I was talking to my friend about, I said, every day I get up in the morning, I think about, particularly when I'm on a gig, I'm like, okay, and maybe this is not for everybody. Okay, what am I going to wear? How am I going to present myself, particularly the first day of rehearsal? Like who I know, who I don't know, who I'm friends with, who I might have some old beef with. You know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking about all these things, like how I present myself, how I speak, how I walk, before I even get out of the shower. I'm thinking about these things, not about my voice, not about, I have to always know I need to be the most prepared in the room. I know I need to be the most, friendly in a way, because people already think, well, how am I, all of these things before I put my chords together, before I take a breath to speak my talents. And my friend's like, I don't even think like that. I'm like, exactly. And that's
you have to.
When you approach me, you need to have grace. You need to understand. So you need to understand that part.
And not only they need to understand,
so anyway,
they need to not just understand it, but also practice it in the same way that you do. Like, we're working on this whole strategic plan for our organization that includes every aspect of running Washington Concert Opera.
Right.
And the biggest part of it, the thing that we all made sure was a part of it, is like, as we're going through each of these individual things, whether it's finance, programming, marketing, whatever, we also need to make sure that we are conscious of how we have come up short in the realm of reaching out to people who don't look like our main demographic. We have to be conscious in all of these, in making all of these improvements, how we show up for our artists who don't normally, who aren't here as often, our artists of color who don't feel as welcome, whether it's in the space or with our patrons. Like, we have to be as conscious, but by we, I mostly mean a lot of white people, but also like ourselves. Like, we have to be just as aware of how we come into the space and what kind of environment we are creating, and not just leave singers or younger administrators or anyone who does not feel like they're in a position to ask for things or to request, or who do not feel empowered. We have to empower those people, basically. And I feel as though that's been something that's been lacking a lot, is that leaders have not been as conscious of the need to empower people who are not in that position of power. They will always think that people are just going to go to it, and if not, then clearly there's no problem, when it's like, no, your job is to find anything that could be a problem and solve it.
Absolutely.
But leadership needs to model that. Leadership needs to show that leadership needs to share their power, give up power, and make that example so others can follow. Because you can try to do it at another level of the organization, but if your CEO or your executive director isn't doing it, it's really, really hard to move that.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I would say, going back to the whole organizations thing, I have to give a shout out to Wolf Trap and to Vocal Arts CC, both organizations I worked for, because with Wolf Trap and how they run auditions, it's not about filling slots for a season. It's about playing to the strengths of the people that they hear on the road in their audition tour. And I think that takes out the question of how do I ever dream of seeing this person in this role, and hearing the person's voice and seeing them and saying, how can I get this person to the next level? what can I do for them? How can I truly create a one-of-a-kind educational experience that advances them to the next part of their career? And with vocal arts, in both seasons, they only have like 7 recitals per year, and it's not opera, it's art song. But there are people of color, there are Black people, there are Latinx people, Asians who are within the program, and that's not really a thing that this is a quota that we're trying to fill. This is just, these are the people that we have deliberately sought out to hear. It is a very diverse group of singers, and that is our expectation for how we program. We are not it's not for this purpose of filling a quota, it's for normalizing the diversity of classical voice. And that's ultimately my goal, where it's that, we could do, we already do a ton of all white casts, but like we can do an all black cast at some point and not even think twice about it. And not even have to worry about adding an extra hashtag of Black excellence to bring out the fact of how phenomenal it is, because it's normal, because it is commonplace, because that's really where we want to be.
Yeah, I think.
Kristal, please. I keep interrupting you, girl.
No. Because we're on the same wavelength. That's all it is. I was just going to say that I'm going to take Karen's line and please, Switzerland, I will not name companies. But what I will wish, and what I wish to see, is an opportunity to celebrate the wins, or to celebrate the good work. There's so many like call out culture, opera is racist, which I think are really important. I absolutely, support them to call out what is wrong, but there's not the same platform to celebrate the wins, because we have to realize that doing this work, of course, in the human level, there's fear involved. There's the fear of making mistakes, even though that's a part of this. But, I wish for a platform, opera is becoming equitable, where you can celebrate like this company.
We can start the channel.
Right, maybe. Where you can celebrate the companies that are really doing the work. And because, again, Karen, like, I was talking to Brianna Hunter the other day, and like, we know the lists. We know the list. We can say the list, but like, is there a productive way to do it, as an example? And so that's just something I've been thinking about.
Absolutely. Shout out to Bree. We love Bree.
Brianna.
Doing I'm so proud of her.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brandon, baby. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add, Teyvon said something that just like sparked something in my head. You said the word imagine. You said imagine, and it just made me think of how hilarious it is that when we look at opera, orchestra, ballet, musical theater, straight theater, these art forms that are tasked to imagine the impossible, cannot imagine brown people in the roles on stage, in the seats, in the orchestra. I just find it so fascinating that their imagination stops at the color of our skin. And that is a big issue and a big part of the problem that we've been talking about all night. But I just think we need to start using that word. Like, how can you not imagine me? Mm-hmm. How can you not understand or see my worth?
You are so creative. I know you can see a Black person in this role. Like, use your right. What is it, the left or the right brain? Yeah. Use that side of the brain a little bit more when it comes to like seeing a person you would never see there, because it's clearly possible. Like, we make the most ridiculous things happen on stage. Mm-hmm. It is kind of weird that like the color of our skin, as you said, is like the part where creativity doesn't flow anymore for people who are making creative decisions.
Yeah, or the production manager, or the stagehands, or the person that calls the shows, or the costume designers, the lighting, the tech designers. Like, there needs to be all of those positions, training places. There should be companies and schools funneling talent to these places.
Well, yeah, and I'll say, like, at MSM we have this initiative this year that will eventually evolve into something else. But everything we produce this year will have a Black creator attached to it. Mm-hmm. And we just started performances this week. And, you know, I got like the first list of like, here's what's happening this week. And like to see like a whole list of programs that everyone had like a Black composer on them. I mean, I almost passed out, and it's like something, you know, it's been in the works since June, but like now it's happening. And you know, I obviously know that like some people are just going to check a box, you know, on their recital or on their performance when they're planning. And I'm fine with that, to be honest, because like I checked the Schubert box on my master's recital and I learned, but I didn't really love the songs that I sang, and that's fine. Like, but at the end of the year, like, I hope students are going to be pissed off that they didn't know these composers or they didn't know these librettists or creators, like, because we've been holding it back, like with effort in conservatories, we've been holding it back. And that's why I think it's important to look back and look forward. Like, what do we want it to be? Like, let's dream that up. But also like what's been in the way, hello, let's look at the music history syllabus where you're not teaching any Black composers. So how are they supposed to know any? You know, right. So it's like both have to happen at the same time. But like, I agree, you have to dream it up. Like you have to, and you have to be brave enough to like pull the trigger and go out there and say like, what if everything we produced had something Black on it this year? Like what would happen? And like, of course, like there's a comment like, oh, people are going to hate that. People are going to resist. People are going to call meritocracy myth on that. And like, yeah, and like I can't control that, but if we tell them there's a lot of
bad programming year after year after year, but they get the opportunities to continue to get it right. I want to yes, absolutely, and I want to just make one more comment about the union. Yes. Absolutely, Russell, there is a race problem.
Yes,
within our unions, and I am. While that is not my bag, that's not where I feel like my my voice and my power could be used in its best way. I think I'm definitely in the artistic side, but I need somebody to go in and drag that situation and get it together. Like we must address that. That's the next.
Can you say more about that? Because I was going to ask how artists feel about that.
Yeah. About the union?
Yeah. What are the things that for you feel like need to be addressed on the administrative side?
On the administrative side, as an artist?
Or really, I mean, I'm curious as to like, within the unions, like what have been the things that have been an issue, or not necessarily an issue, but like what are the challenges to being a union member as, you know, as a Black woman or as a Latinx person or an Asian person or anyone who is literally not white. Because I only know of working with unions from like the side of like, how much is this going to cost? I don't like, this is something I've never dealt with before.
Well, I think as an artist, and I want my friends to comment, my colleagues to comment on it, you know, in the comments. But I think that many soloists feel like our union does not serve us, you know, and we have. I think this was even maybe pre-COVID and definitely during COVID when it came to advocacy, when it came to, you know, with whom God, you know, I didn't get a single artist grant, not one. During the entire COVID situation, and particularly not one for my union. After I've been a union member since 1999, I did not get the $1,000 or $2,000, whatever. And so I think that the idea is that the union serves the dancers and the choristers instead of the soloists who come in per contract for different companies. Like Russell says, look at the stagehands. There's no diversity within the stagehands. And again, it's that model of pulling people in, you know. I mean, I definitely think there are several camps within the soloists, but there definitely is a clear divide of pro-union and not, and the idea that a soloist needs to have their own union, because the needs of a soloist are very different than an employee that works like full-time, say at the Metropolitan Opera or something like Chicago Lyric. And so that is a lot. It's very contentious, you know, and we have to pay per per year to be a part of the union, and then our 2% every time we work in an AGMA house. But when when that adds up decade after decade, that's a lot.
Yeah.
More money going out. And so as a soloist, these are some of the issues. Union leadership is an issue. Wig and makeup crews. You go to it, and I should not have to bring my own makeup.
Yeah. But you have to. I mean,
sometimes you
right.
I think things are a lot better. I came through the San Francisco Opera program, and so I was fortunate enough to have someone like a Richard Battle, who was worked for decades at the opera and helped and trained and knew, Black. He's Kathleen Battle's cousin, so he's a Black man, so I didn't have to worry about, things. And so there's a lot of that. Those roots need to be dug out and dealt with, within the union. So that's some of the things that we're dealing with as a soloist.
Well, and I feel like that's something that administrators and singers, that's like a ground level kind of thing that people can come together on.
I agree.
And that's like one like basic thing which not basic for singers because it's your livelihoods, right? But one thing to really collaborate on and come together. And I think a lot of it's going to has to be an education. Because administrators don't know this kind of thing. Because like Teyvon said, we come from it on the other end of how much is this going to cost? Like, how can I budget for this? How can I do this? How can I do that? So we don't know about this background, these kind of background issues. And I think that's a huge issue. I'm like, I'm shocked that none of my friends have ever even really mentioned this.
Oh, it's a whole thing. I mean, even from your wig, even from your, like, you walk in, and the idea that you need kinky straight in order for it to look real versus like, just the minimum things. So just to have, I didn't have such a great experience when I worked at this particular company for other reasons, but I have to say, Atlanta Opera, the wonderful African American woman who was there in wigs and makeup, she beat my brows because she knows how we like our brows, and she beat my face, and I didn't have to worry about anything. I sat in her chair, and she loved up on me so hard, and it made a difference.
Yeah. Well, and that's equity, right? It's like the energy you spend. From getting out of the shower to that, like those are for administrators, like that. Those are the small things that we try really hard to remove. Because it's kind of low hanging fruit, right? It's like for me, anytime I'm on these Opera America calls for performer development, I'm like, so who's willing to give up that application fee this year because you're holding back people? It's those things. Like to them, it's $20 or $30, right? Like, for us, when we were, applying to things, I mean, I would spend like $1,500 a season applying for things, and like that was, I had to like save all my like Messiah money from the previous for the fall, and but no, I'm telling you, when I'm on these calls, like no one is saying these things. Like on the Opera America calls, it's great people, but I'm the only person of color. Anna Darcholetta comes to some of them, but if it's not me or Anna saying something, it doesn't get said.
It doesn't get said, of course, and that's where we need to really address. I want to shout out to David Devan, and he probably is like, don't say my name, but we had a lovely meeting earlier today, and I was like, oh, it was just amazing. It was amazing to hear the conversation that we had. To have come out of someone who looks like him, who I don't normally have, and I've been in this business for a long time. And I'm very good friends with many people or colleagues or people know me and have not, hired me or whatever, but I have a good rapport with them. But no one's ever asked me the questions that you asked me. No one knows. And they can. Because they know, first of all, Kiki's going to tell the truth. And second of all, it's going to be from a place of love because it's going to be, let's get the work done, But also it should be a place of trying to understand what it is that we carry into these spaces, which I think was why LA Opera Panel was so. And here's my other child over here.
That's not Penny.
That's Rudy. No, this is.
Oh, that's Rudy. Hi,
Rudy. Yeah. But it's something. But that's why I'm so thankful for this platform that I have, that I can, on my terms, bring the people with whom want to engage and make the change. So, to hear. But before we, we're almost 2 hours and we can talk about this forever. But I want to know, what would it look like if you led in your dream leadership position from each of you, and what that looks like? Because we're, Kiki Conversations is a big deal when people watch us. Yeah. And I want the world, we made Opera News this month, so and that's a big deal. But I want people to hear from you all, what your dreams are.
Oh my gosh.
Take the time. I'm giving you the floor. Please take the time. This is for you.
I mean, I can say, for me, I would really love for things like, Alexa, what you were saying, that feeling that you feel that you need to have a certain education or degree. I feel it myself, trying to get like these accolades to prove myself. I would love that to disappear. I would love to run an organization and make it feel like a real community and really just serving the music and serving the audience. So that requires a variety of perspectives, a variety of experiences. I would love to see more artists in leadership, like high-level decision-making power leadership. I think it's important. And yeah, my dream, I mean, I love opera. There is I love the human voice, and I love authentic music making. And I would love to see opera take the good of and take the beauty of the art form. Honor it, but let's build something new on top of that. Let's really bring it to today. Look at the artists, serve the artists, really care for the artists who are really messengers and caretakers for the music. And in the end, I think if we do that authentically, if we really come from a place of curiosity and care for the people who are working by our sides, which in nonprofit, I mean, this is an act of love to work in the arts, and especially in this moment where our future seems so unclear and nothing is certain. We just need to take care and serve and never forget what brought us here and what we're trying to accomplish. And whether that, if you do have the privilege to serve in a leadership position where you can make decisions, open the door, let people in. Don't, just look at the MBAs. Look at the person who didn't finish college. Look at the person who started their own company and has been running it for 20 years. Look at the single mother. Look at you know what I mean? Be imaginative with your hiring. It makes me want to go into HR, honestly. I feel like that's where it's at. You need to be creative. We need creatives, influencing creative arts. So that is where it's at. And I think we all, as humans, can be creative. I don't think you need to have a degree from a conservatory to access that, but we lose that on the administration side, a lot of us, because working in an office 9 to 5, it's mundane, there's routine. So finding ways to activate that, really get your organization to be innovative. And by innovative, I mean, you need to be vulnerable. You need to have tough conversations. You can't be creative unless you're honest with each other, unless you trust each other. And maybe that's asking a lot. Maybe that's way too optimistic, but I believe it's possible. And I believe opera in this country, where we're at in the US, has a future, but it has to care about the audience. It has to care about the community it's serving. It can't be this thing above me. It's a miracle that I love opera because it's not a part of my culture. It's really expensive. And I had many, many moments of no, I can't do this. And it was always about access and it was always about cost. And I would love to see that disappear. I would love for opera companies to say no more application fee. That's only in opera. I don't understand why that's with us. And it's such a small, from what I've read of someone who's done research on this, I forget what his name is, but he did an excellent research on this. It's such a small amount of the budget compared to everything. Why? Why are you holding on to that? Is the commitment of getting a degree not enough? Is the commitment of taking lessons, and in New York, those are expensive, is that not enough? So all that stuff, I think me as a leader in an organization, being an artist and always kind of serving that, like keeping that central to what motivates me is what I would like to see in the future from all leaders. But that's hopefully what I can cultivate and bring to the industry. And whether it's opera, symphonies, whatever, like authentic music making and serving it.
Yes. Teyvon, sorry,
Yeah.
Teyvon.
Man, that's not, my response is not going to be anywhere near as good as that.
She took all the answers.
She should have went last.
That's how Yvette rolls.
I think that my biggest goal as a leader in any place that I go to is creating the right kind of space. When working with donors, especially when most of the donors that I'm working with are white and are struggling to understand what it is our kind of experience within this industry, I want to create a space to have those exhausting and challenging and uncomfortable conversations in which we can come out of it with a way to move forward. Creating a space for new ideas, both internally within the work culture, but also with what happens on stage and what happens, as Yvette said, in our community. Like, I want to create the space for more opportunities, both for us as an organization, but also for the artists that we serve and for the audiences that we can actually reach within our areas. I'm not as concerned with kind of having any sort of national profile with whatever organization I serve, unless I know that the audience and the need is actually there. And that's kind of how I approach it here, where it's like, I know that I want to engage with DC artists more. I know I want to engage with the DC community more. And I know that I want the organization to be sustainable, and I want the people to think more holistically and be more conscious of the people who are actually coming in who aren't a part of this core team. So I think it's really just finding the right way to create a better space for everyone who was involved. Like, that's kind of how I boil it down.
Okay. Brandon?
I feel like I've been dreaming and scheming my whole life. And I think what I always go back to is like how I was raised, like being obsessed with story and being tied into other people's stories, not just my own. And having an obsession with knowing things, not just about people, but about the world and how we interact and how we influence one another and how we see things around us. I think that's something that really drives me. And, in the grand scheme of things, I don't want to be pigeonholed into one art form. I really want to have the opportunity to dive into everything. So my dream would be to have my own production company one day that dives into not only just opera and dance or musical theater, but also into film, television, documentaries, and telling the stories of people that look like me, that don't look like me, and also offer opportunities and training opportunities for people that look like me and don't look like me, and serve not just myself and my family and my friends who I'm conspiring to take along on this journey when I can get there, because paying it forward is the most important thing you can do. I also want to make sure that I'm giving back to any community that I'm housed in, and making sure that I am fulfilling what my ancestors, my grandparents, my father, my mother have laid before me. That's the most important thing. And if I accomplish a 10th of what they've done for their communities, for the people that are tied to them, then I can die happy. So
I love that.
Very nice.
Yeah, Kristal.
Ooh, I gotta follow that, man.
I know. And I got one more question for the panel after this, and then I'm gonna let y'all go. But yes, go ahead.
I'll respond to what I vision for opera first. And really it is, earlier, Alexa, I think you said, it's a miracle that we're all here together. And it really is, and I really do feel that, we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. I really believe that. And what I hope to do is to envision an opera space that encapsulates that, and that it is really welcoming and open to all people, that the little girl in me would be affirmed in the next time. And I also feel that opera has an opportunity to be a leader in doing this work correctly. I know we've been talking about other art forms and how they've seemed like they've been forward, but we've learned in this time they're not. They're not better off than we are. So our industry can make precedent and move forward and be the example. It's not too late. So that's just something I want to really affirm all of us as we're like thinking about this in our various pieces of the pie. Like, it's not too late, now or never. So yeah, I'll just end there.
Lex?
I'll be brief. So the first time we all got together in Sphinx in Detroit earlier this year, I think for the first time I felt like I could really be myself the entire days that we were together. And that sparked, I think, all of us to go and do so much more work, creative work, and to just have confidence to dream bigger and execute that. And it made me realize that, like, we're only getting a tiny fraction of the art that's possible in opera to be on stage, because so many people are being held back the way we were. And there's so many things in the way that's taking our energy away from making great art.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was watching the Jesse Norman thing that this week, and I mean, the art making, because everyone felt liberated, you know, that's what we should all aspire to put on an opera stage. So that's my goal. That's what I want. Yes. That's what I want to help do.
You know, I think you all, I love it. I love every comment you all made. And, you know, the one thing that tied you all together was to be of service to the art, to be of service to the community, to be of service to the people that come to your theater. And you all will be amazing leaders, because that is the core and the center of where you operate. And I celebrate you. I celebrate you all. I feel like we're like family now.
We are family. That's it.
We are now.
I feel it. Oh my God. I'm telling you. And so we're gonna wrap up, because eventually we're gonna do part 2 somewhere down the line. But I just want to ask you what you need from us as a community, and not just singers, but us as a collective, as a community. What you need and what you would like from us to support you.
Just support. I'll speak. Support is great, and I want to say, like, just working, especially at Opera America, I am aware of some of the on the ground activity that's happening. You know, I want to shout out the Black Opera Alliance. I want to shout out Women in Color in Opera. There are groups that are doing hard work. I want to support you as well. I want big ideas. I want collaboration. And I want us, as you just said, to feel like family, because it takes every single one of us as people of color, and then also our white colleagues and supporters as well. So to really make this feel like home.
I mean, yeah, I will echo that, because I think what I need is a community. I need a community of like-minded individuals, artists, administrators. I'm here. I want to say that to anyone out there. I'm here if you need, if you want to talk fundraising, if you want to talk art, if you want to, whatever, we're here. So I think that's the most important thing. I want to be available, and I want to learn, and I want to keep growing. But like Karen, how you started this, like, I want to know you. So we need to know each other, and we need to, like, break down these walls and these silos and just get in there and start talking about what our visions are, and that's how you start making things happen. So
I would say keep having these open conversations. I mean, kind of going along with the whole union thing, I only know about things from my experience, and that's pretty much how we end up where we are now. And so all of these can't, like, you know, again, with the Instagram channels, like the Opera's Racist thing, there's a lot of stuff that I would not know existed, and I would not have any idea of I wouldn't have any idea on where to begin on terms of where the real conversations need to start if it weren't for the if it weren't for the fact that people were trying to have a dialogue already. So be unafraid of that. And, you know, my obligation to you is when, you know, to you as artists and to you as anyone who feels as though they do not have the power dynamic or the kind of ability to do so, like, I will fight for you on my half and do what I can to make sure that we're both moving forward in the same direction.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want us to know each other more and do more of this. And I think now I really think this opened the door to us figuring out different avenues to do that. Because I know on our side, it's what we want more of. It's been helpful to us to know each other, and now it's time to bring it all together.
Yes.
I would just say be strong, be brave, be bold. Hold yourself accountable for the impossible, because that's how mountains are moved. And unless we trust that we are right and that history will see us doing what is right, we will stay stuck, and we're in the quagmire of our current present and situation. So I think, if anything, what would help me is knowing that other people are staying tight and strong and pushing things forward, like all these beautiful people in this chat room are, and also just connect, because we have to connect. We have to know each other. And Karen, thanks for making this possible and bringing us together.
yes.
I have 5 new family members, so
Yes. Oh, I love that. And I want you all to know that I am here. I am available. I want us to continue to grow this relationship. You know, my composers, they have a whole clique. Now,
Yes.
my composer panel, and they got a whole thing going, you know. And so I welcome that relationship with you all and with other leaders, because I really do want to know you, and I really want to support us all to support each other. And I know my colleagues and people that my friends are in this industry want to know you and support you as well. So this is just the beginning for us.
I love it.
Yeah, we're starting doing cookouts now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is just the beginning. So thank you everybody for coming to Convos this week. Man, I am so full.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my God, so much love.
Yes, I'm gonna give me another glass of wine and just cry some
Yes.
tears
Absolutely.
after this. So much. Thank you, Yvette and Teyvon and Brandon and Alexa and Kristal. Thank you so much for just being so honest and so open. And let's just get out there and get busy and continue to do the work and uplift each other. And yes, absolutely. All love, all love. I can't even do that.
Love you all.
All love.
Here we go.
All right, you all. Next week, I hope to do a convo. I need a little bit of break for October, and I'm so sorry because I got to go learn some new music, and I got to go be a
Yes, she's gonna sing.
You gotta sing.
yes. So next week's convos will be, you know, I don't know yet, but you know, we're gonna take a little bit of hiatus. We're gonna come back strong with some more, you know. Go Convos crew. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.